Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the shocking story James Coburn truly hated him more than anyone. In actuality, James Coburn detested him more than does anyone know. James Coburn's birth name, Coburn III, Harrison, August 31, 1928. Coburn was born and raised in Laurel, Nebraska, during the Great Depression, which influenced the fortitude and silent power he would eventually contribute to numerous of his famous. His family relocated to Compton. When he was younger, California was his curiosity, and performing was there. The narrative started to flourish following serving as a member of the U.S. Army disc jockey and truck driver during the Coburn studied acting during the Korean War at Los, attended Angeles City College, and thereafter received training under the renowned Stella, an acting instructor. The 1950s were Adler's breakthrough years. Until the early 1960s, when he started to show up in several TV shows in a short amount of time, acknowledging his powerful screen presence and distinctive voice. Before long, Hollywood arrived. Vocation and his function as Brit the Simple Knife Thrower from the iconic 1960s. He was launched by the Western The Magnificent Seven. This job was a fantastic fit for celebrity. The core of Coburn's allure is chill, calm and enigmatic with a hint of risk. During the 1960s and 1970s, Coburn cemented his standing as a notable actor who established himself as a mainstay in Western action movies and parodies of espionage movies, notably taking the major role in the espionage movies with satire, Our Man Flint 1966, as well as its follow-up, Like Flint 1967. These parts demonstrated not just his physical strength as well as his humor, timing and elegant manner, demonstrating that with ease, he could switch between both serious drama and humorous amusement. He also adopted more nuanced personas in highly regarded movies such as The Pat Garrett, The President's Analyst, and Billy the Kid, with whom he collaborated. Sam Peckinpah, the filmmaker, showed a more profound emotional spectrum. Coburn's range worked on more than just genre movies. Alongside well-known filmmakers, and held his own with well-known celebrities' performances, such as his parts in The Great Escape charade of 1963, Pat Garrett with Billy the Kid in 1963, Cross of Iron, 1977, and 1973, where his cooperation with the renowned director. Layers of complexity were added by Sam Peckinpah. In addition to his performances, he was an action star who is also a considerate actor. He gave roles depth that could have been one-dimensional with ease. In spite of his achievements, Coburn's career encountered obstacles in the 1980s as a result of an unpleasant and incapacitating type of arthritis that made it difficult for him to work for many years. He battled the illness that warped his body and caused him a lot of suffering, but in reality he never gave up on Coburn fashion. Through a blend of complementary medicine and the use of MSM methylsulfonomethane caused him to have a notable progress in his health. Is the culmination of a victorious return to acting in his Academy Award victory for 1999's Top Supporting Actor for his disturbing depiction of a resentful and violent affliction directed by an alcoholic parent. Paul Schrader's prize was not just an acknowledgement of his work in that function, but also a celebration of his enduring skill and tenacity. Coburn's contribution to cinema went beyond the parts he performed. He was a member of the renowned ensemble of performers known as the Hollywood Rat Pack, mingling and occasionally collaborating with Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson and Bruce Lee. His bond with Bruce Lee was especially noteworthy. Coburn was not just a practitioner of Lee's martial arts, but moreover a supporter of his theory. The two had a regard for one another that went beyond renown, and Coburn would subsequently act as a Lee's funeral pallbearer and off-screen in 1973. Coburn was renowned for his worldliness, intelligence, and a rich voice that could dominate a space. He possessed a fondness for jazz music, philosophy, and throughout the world, which gave him a sense of sophistication and inquisitiveness that setting him different from a lot of his contemporaries. In spite of the gruff macho persona he frequently displayed, acquaintances and co-workers frequently appear on television characterized him as considerate, courteous, and James Coburn was extremely devoted. Two noteworthy unions throughout each of which had a part in his life. Had a significant part in forming both his career and personal journey. The first spouse was Beverly Kelly, with whom he got married, and their union lasted for 2 full decades, ending in 1959. And gave birth to 2 kids, a son and a daughter who had key roles in the time in Coburn's life when his career in Hollywood was gradually gaining momentum, while the public image of Coburn was renowned for being a tough, calm person. Manner and captivating on-screen persona, he kept his house comparatively quiet. Life. He married Beverly at the same time contains some of his most well-known pieces and parts in the magnificent and other films 1960 Our Man, The Great Escape, and 1963 Flint 1966, indicating that the stability of his upbringing could have served as a grounding force during an especially taxing and prominent period of his career, despite how lengthy their Coburn and Kelly's connection in the end separated in 1979 following 2 decades of marriage, but the causes of their separation were mostly avoided in the focus. The divorce signaled the termination of a significant period in his private life. Over 10 years later, Coburn fell in love once more and began his second marriage, this time to Paula, an actress. The two got married on October 22, 1993 at an amorous ceremony that took place in Versailles, France, an appropriate place. Their mutual admiration for art. Paula, who was a culture and elegance expert, actress and former Brazilian-American, the host of television, was not just an encouraging companion, but also a profoundly engaged partner in Coburn's charitable and creative pursuits. Their friendship was well known as one of affection, respect, and friendship, in contrast to the busy time Coburn's second marriage after his first. His marriage occurred when he had retreated a little from the spotlight, concentrating more on specific movie roles and individual interests. James and Paula founded the joint The Coburn Foundation of James and Paula, nonprofit group committed to financing initiatives in the fields of medicine, the arts, and education. Foundation has provided funding for a wide range of list causes funded by scholarships for impoverished children to assist with independent filmmakers and medical professionals' research, particularly projects pertaining to the illness known as rheumatoid arthritis, which profoundly impacted Coburn himself. Their collaborative efforts produced a long-lasting charitable heritage that persisted even Coburn's battle following his death among those who had rheumatoid arthritis was most difficult elements of his adult in the late 1970s. Life was diagnosed with crippling illness that resulted in severe persistent discomfort and limited movement to the extent that it overshadowed his performing profession for about 10 years, although, despite the seriousness of his condition, Coburn continued to be quite active and tenacious. He would not allow his situation that either defines or restricts his activities that demonstrated this spirit were his enduring passion for martial arts. An unexpected passion is the arts. Considering the toll that his arthritis had on him, Coburn took martial arts seriously. Arts and cultivated a profound lifetime friendship with a renowned martial artist and actor Bruce Lee. Exchanged additional information, more than merely a respect for fighting technique, that they bonded over as well. Philosophical debates, in particular centered on the ideas of self-control, Eastern religion and individual. Coburn gave Lee credit for progress, giving him a more comprehensive knowledge of motion, respiration, and internal strong components that would be useful in the future him manage his health issues. Their friendship was so strong that when unfortunately Bruce Lee died at 32 years old in July, Coburn was one of the few in 1973 selected to serve as a pallbearer at his burial, standing on July 25 of that year. In addition to other close friends and Marshall Steve and other Lee art students Dan Inosanto, Coburn and McQueen provided assistance transport Lee's coffin in a dignified, and the moment was hardly an emotional parting. Not just a loss for Coburn personally, but also a metaphorical reminder of the profound relationships he made during his many aspects of life that went beyond professional limits and had their origins in with regard to one another and philosophy. Kinship. Coburn persisted in praising of Lee in future decades interviews, frequently attributing his assistance to mold his perspective on life and the mindful movement practice, which thus played a part in Coburn's ultimately made a partial recovery and went back performing in the latter part of the 1990s. James Coburn was well known during Hollywood as among the most stylish and performers of their generation who are relaxed, and his toothy grin and gruff voice. Coburn's effortlessly elegant manner was a man who was rarely angry and got along with most folks in general. Collaborated with, but even the most laid back. It is possible to push souls to their boundaries, and Yul was the name of that limit for Coburn. Brynner. Even if the two men collaborated on one of the most famous westerns ever made, Fantastic Seven 1960, their off-screen the partnership was far from peaceful. Indeed, Coburn would thereafter state that he had never been against a man actor with the same fervor as he did Brynner from when the two first arrived on the set, though there was already a noticeable sense of anxiety. A well-known figure because of his Oscar-winning I carried myself and my position in The King on having a royal successor that many people understood, he claimed top billing out of conceit. Anticipated blind obedience from cast and crew, and frequently had disagreements with the John Sturges, the director, over creative choices that are more bald-headed and dramatic style, urged that he is captured on camera in the most possibility of attractive lighting and angles, even if it meant interfering with the whole sequence of a scene in an ensemble movie similar to The Magnificent Seven, in which the characters' chemistry was Brynner's actions swiftly turned into a source of disagreement. In sharp contrast, James Coburn was a cooperative but not yet living in the home. Coburn took the name he would eventually become. His responsibility seriously and put up a lot of effort to give his persona more nuance. He appreciated the knife-throwing cowboy. Professionalism on the shoot was appreciated. Team and delighted, loved working with his co-stars, but collaborating with Brynner turned out to be an examination of his. According to reports, Coburn's patience was angry with Brynner's incessant demand for regulate, whether it was positioned himself in each shot's foreground or asking for revisions to offer himself. Brynner's ego appeared to know more lines. One specific instance stands without boundaries. Emerged as a hot spot in their seating dispute when a group scene was being filmed. Brynner was furious upon realizing that another actor, Steve McQueen, has whoever Brynner notoriously harbored resentment towards subtly. Rivalry was stealing scenes by adjusting his headgear and making little striking motions that made the Brynner fly, storming off stage in a rage and declaring that if the scenario wasn't res hot with him as the prominent image, concentrate on Coburn, who was impatient with allegedly rolled his eyes at diva antics. Said in a whisper that Brynner was the largest from then on, the West was a damn baby. Cast Coburn was no longer visible on the die. Brynner as a co-worker, but as a barrier to the popularity of the movie and a representation of all the things he didn't enjoy about the program. Coburn's contempt for business throughout time only heightened his distaste for Brynner's mentality as well as the environment in which he produced. Tense, aggressive, and vanity-ridden, Coburn's favored collaborating with grounded actors just as genuine as Charles Bronson or Robert Vaughn, whom he held in high regard. He saw Brynner as a pining prima donna is more focused about his appearance than the movie's integrity, although Coburn never made a public appearance in a rant against Brynner, and his loved ones later realized the depth of his disdain. When questioned about the movie in interviews, Coburn would frequently avoid talking about Brynner in any depth and providing curt comments or shifting the topic. Of course, the overall irony is that regardless of their personal hostility, The Magnificent Seven turned into a legendary movie. Primarily due to the group's their rivalries, on-screen chemistry may have possibly increased the level of tension in the show's addition of a layer of reality in the way the movie depicts tenacious individualists compelled to labor collectively. But behind the scenes, the Coburn and Brynner's hostility was as fierce as any battle in the West. For Coburn, it was an agonizing experience. An example of how ego and fame could undercut creative cooperation. In the next years, the two men never collaborated once again, but it's unlikely Coburn would have preferred to do so. While he proceeded to a series of prosperous flicks, The President's Our Man, Flint, Billy the Kid, and analyst Pat Garrett continue to be permanently impacted by that early conflict between Brynner and pals and co-workers he would sometimes bring, not with the Magnificent Seven reminiscence, but accompanied with a fast poke fun at that royal obnoxiousness. In a career full of tough guys and frightening figures, it wasn't a criminal or gangster cowboy who fell under. Yul Brynner was the one who had Coburn's skin. He genuinely and unrepentantly detested the man. James Coburn died after a heart attack. Assault on November 18, 2002, when the victim was of 74, concluding an incredible career and life that covered more than. After 40 years in Hollywood, he passed away at his residence in Beverly Hills, California, that had long been a tranquil escape for the seasoned performer and his Paula Coburn, Paula's wife. claims the pair have been exchanging a private and peaceful moment spent together before to his Coburn's death while listening to music's strong emotions beyond just behaving as they sat together and relished the calming tunes that have frequently brought them. James abruptly passed out from happiness and comfort, giving surrender to a huge heart. Paula later disclosed the attack in reports that he passed away in her arms, transforming his last moments into ones of love and calm as one may think under such catastrophic events. Despite the emergency's quick arrival, rescuers and attempts to preserve his life after being sent to Cedars-Sinai Medical Los Angeles Center, one of the city's most prominent and renowned. Despite the best efforts, hospitals there of medical staff, he was declared deceased. The news of his unexpected death startled both co-workers and admirers, as it was just recently that Coburn had a notable recovery in one's career following years of enduring debilitating the rheumatoid arthritis that has caused his 1980s and early 1990s acting career. In the 1990s, he had almost amazing recovery made possible by experimental holistic therapies including a shark-derived supplement cartilage. His health had improved, permitted him to resume performing with revitalized energy, and he had even secured an Best Supporting Actor Academy Award in 1999 for his impactful role in Late in Life. Affliction reached a career peak. The loss of Coburn's life was significant to Hollywood as well as to his relatives, friends, and admirers who had liked his strong on-screen persona, cold charisma, and a gritty voice in timeless works like The Magnificent Seven. Billy, Pat Garrett, and Our Man Flint. The Kid's distinct combination of rough, his easygoing charm and masculinity made him a popular character in American film. Sadly, the grief over his death was less than 2 years later, exacerbated. Paula Coburn, his wife, passed away on July 30, 2004. She passed away from cancer at just 48 years old, leaving friends and family taken aback by yet another devastating loss in a short period of time. Paula, a former TV personality and actress executive, has been a loyal associate of during their marriage. Coburn had helped him throughout his conflict with arthritis, prompted him to go back to acting, and supporting him throughout both the joyous and challenging times. And according to all sources, their connection was lasting and incredibly loving, characterized by common respect. And James and Paula Coburn share passions, were regarded as a beautiful and affectionate pair. Frequently appears at Hollywood gatherings, exuding friendliness and reciprocity. Paula's passing so quickly after a solemn coda was added by James's to the first story that demonstrated the strength of their relationship and the heartbreaking shortness of their time together, both in life and death. Their intimacy was profoundly sensed by those they are not, remembered by those who knew them solely for their respective efforts to entertainment and movies, but also for their unwavering devotion for one another.